The writing and publishing of El Filibusterismo. Historical background. El Filibusterismo was the latter of the two novels of Dr. Jose Rizal. Unlike its first novel, No Limit Tangere, which is more like an encouragement and aspiration for change and liberation, El Filibusterismo is more like a redemption sequel for revenge and freedom from the Spanish government, which oppressed and exploited the Philippines. The novel was dedication to the three martyred priests, Mariano Gomez, Jose Burgos, and Jacinto Zamora. Rizal wrote El Filibusterismo expressing his conviction that their treatment and deaths at the hands of the Spanish authorities were unjust. El Filibusterismo was started by Rizal in Calamba, Laguna in October of 1887. In London of 1888, he continued to work on it and made some revisions. Later, Rizal wrote the book in Paris and Brussels, where there were fewer distractions and lower living expenses. Rizal was able to concentrate on finishing the book, and by March 29th of 1891, he had done so in Biarritz. He sent F. Mayer van Loo Press ingent proofs and revisions. Rizal provided him with the corrected El Fili proofs and the pen he had used to make the corrections in exchange for his assistance. Because of the lack of money to publish the El Filibusterismo, Valentin Ventura provided Rizal with financial assistance after learning of his situation. In historical perspective, we are able to determine that Ventura's generosity to Rizal's book was motivated by his disturbed conscience. However, with Ventura's assistance, Rizal felt the need to drastically cut the length of the book, erasing 47 entire pages from the 279 manuscript to reduce costs. As a result, the printed El Fili, which was released on September 18 of 1891, contained only 38 chapters, as opposed to the 64 of the Noli, which was against his original intention to write a longer sequel. No Limit Tangere and El Fili was used as an eye-opener for the Filipino people to know their conditions and the maltreatment of the Spanish Catholic Church and the Spanish government to the Philippines. In some cases, El Filibusterismo and No Limit Tangere became the instrument of insurrection to the Philippine Revolution.
The story begins on the stop boat Tabu as it makes its way up the Pasig River from Manila on its way to Laguna de Bay. The boat is split into two decks, the top that has all the illustration-rich passengers and the bottom where basically everyone. On the top, we have the rich and Spaniards that they are confident, and at the bottom are the Indians or the natives and the poorer Chinamen. Among our passengers on this ship are Ibarra, who is now known as Simon, the rich jeweler. Doña Victorina, the ridiculously pro-Spanish Indian woman who is in search of her strange husband. Paulita Gomez, the pretty and rich orphan of Doña Victorina. Ben Zaib, a prolific Spanish journalist. Padre Sevilla, Gamora, Salve, Irene, Florentino, and Don Custodio. A high-up and a well-respected pro-Spanish Filipino. Isigani, Father Florentino's nephew, as well as the lover of Paulita and Basilio.
Simon is actually Crisostomo Ibarra of the Noli, whom everyone thought had been killed by the Guardia Civil at Laguna de Bay. Everything Simon does is just part of his grand plan to take revenge against the Spanish officials and to rescue Maria Clara from the convent. Planning to stage a revolution, he smuggled arms and looks for followers, mainly from the exploited and abusive natives. Simon is able to smuggle firearms into the country through Quiroga, a rich Chinese merchant that owes him a great deal of money. One of his recruits is Basilio, the son of Sisa, who with Capitan Tiago's help was able to study in Manila. Basilio is in love with a girl named Juli, who is the daughter of Cabezang Tales. However, the planned revolt one night was not carried out because Simon, upon hearing that Maria Clara died in the nunnery, decided not to give the signal for the outbreak of the uprising.
And was made some months later at the venue of the wedding reception of Juanito Pelaez and Paulita Gomez. Simon planted many explosives enough to kill the invited guests, primarily the friar and the government officials. Simon reveals his big plan to Basilio. The wedding was going to be a very big event, so naturally, a lot of very important Spanish officials and people would be there. The big explosion shall be started by the gift he would give to a newlyweds at the reception. Toss on a lamp with an explosive. When the lamp flickers and someone turns the wick, it will result into a big explosion that will become a signal to the revolutionary troops to simultaneously attack all the government buildings in the Manila. His gift to the newlyweds before hurriedly leaving the venue. He leaves a piece of mysterious paper bearing the message, "You will die tonight," signed by Juan Crisostomo Ibarra. Meanwhile, Isagani, the rejected lover of Paulita, is standing outside the reception. His friend Basilio tells him to leave the place because the lamp will soon blow up. But Isagani, wanting to save Paulita's life, rushes into the house, grabs the lamp, and throws it into the river where it explodes. Simon's revolutionary plot was thus known and he is hunted by the law enforcers. He managed to escape but was seriously wounded, carrying his jewelry chest. He finds shelter in the home of Padre Florentino by the sea. Learning of his presence in the house of the priest, the lieutenant of the Guardia Civil informs Padre Florentino that he will come in the evening to arrest Simon. Simon then takes poison that he would not be caught alive. As the poison's effects start to take toll on his body, he confesses to Father Florentino his true identity and his plan of revenge through bloody revolution. After the emotional and agonizing confession of the dying man, the priest absolves the dying man from his sins.
The story ends with the priest throwing Simon's treasures into the sea so that they would not be used by the greedy. The priest hopes that when the right time comes, they would be recovered and used only for the good.
El Filibusterismo, a novel that full of darkness, sacrifices, revenge, unfulfilled love, and tragedy. It is the continuation novel of No Limitang Here as Juan Crisostomo Ibarra is the protagonist of the story, introducing it into unbelievable plot twists for believing the readers that Ibarra was already died at the end of No Limitang Here. But later, Simon was introduced as a mysterious character that everyone thinks as a new character of El Filibusterismo. Don Simon is the protagonist in the novel but at the same time the antagonist. Jose Rizal purposed by writing this novel aimed to enlighten the Filipino on what is happening in the country. They want the Filipino to fight for their country and have the total freedom, to wake up the Filipino from the agony they've been through for how many years. El Filibusterismo is about raising a revolt against Spanish friars and bringing down the Spanish colonial government. The Philippines suffer from widespread corruption which developed during the Spanish colonial period. As it was stated in the novel where Don Simon uses his wealth to promote the corruption of the ruling class, his arrogance towards natives and the oppression machinery, and at the same time to draw the attention of the oppressed people to the condition which he himself to some extent has caused and to provoke the opposition. Basically, it shows that he just mirrored the Spanish action for them to trust him. Under Spanish rule, the indigenous family had to cultivate not only enough food and crops for their own, but also a great portion which they were forced to hand over the warlords. All the land of the farmer had taken away from them by the Spaniards. Ancestral lands were claimed and registered in other people's name, which is the Spanish official. Family were not allowed to own their land. The King of Spain owned the land and Filipino were assigned to these lands to cultivate them, and they paid their colonial tributes to the Spanish authorities in the form of agricultural products. Spaniards used the name of God for their evil actions, manipulation, exploitation, harassment, and treating all the Filipino like an animal. Jose Rizal stated that El Filibusterismo is not an anti-Christ novel. He is just exposing the wrongdoings of friars and other church leaders, which are against the Bible and God's word. Education and language. They were not given the benefits of public education and their rights and wishes were almost completely ignored. Many Filipinos suffered abuse and injustice because of polo. Polistas worked for a little to no pay. They were also separated from their families and were forced to work despite hazardous or unhealthy condition, resulting in injuries and death. Many natives were forced to do hard labor and subjected to extreme punishment and death if they resisted.
And thus, the final pages of El Filibusterismo draw to a close, leaving behind a trail of reflection and contemplation. Rizal's words have etched through the years, resonating with the hearts and minds of generations, as they shed light on the darkness that once shrouded the Filipino people under the Spanish colonial rule. Education emerges as a significant theme in Rizal's masterpiece, serving as a focal point for his scathing critique of the Spanish-imposed system. With careful strokes of his pen, he unveils the crookedness within the educational fabric, exposing its purposeful design to stifle the Filipinos' intellectual growth, impede their access to knowledge, and suppress their inclination to question the colonial regime. Though through his vivid portrayal of the characters such as Simon, Basilio, and Isagani, Rizal brings to life the struggles and aspirations of the Filipino youth trapped within the oppressive educational system. He unveils the inequalities and disparities that hinder their progress and curtail their potential. His novels became a mirror reflecting the devastating consequences of a regime determined to maintain control and subjugation through intellectual subversion. Yet, as we turn the last page, Rizal's message remains etched into our consciousness, urging us to confront the corruption, abuse of power, and social injustices that persist in our world today. His words serve as a reminder of the urgent need to address the educational disparities that continue to exist, ensuring that every individual, regardless of their background, has access to quality education.
Rizal's legacy impels us to challenge the status quo, to question the systems and structures that perpetuate inequality, and to strive for a society that values knowledge, critical thinking, and inclusivity. His novel stands as a testament to the power of literature, for it has the ability to ignite the flames of change and inspire us to create a more just and equitable world. As we bid farewell to the pages of El Filibusterismo, let us take the lessons imparted from it. We should raise our voices against corruption, extend a helping hand to the apathetic, and fight for justice with all our hearts, inspiring us to take action to build a future where social injustice is eliminated, and education serves as a catalyst for empowerment. Rizal's vision for a better society remains an inspiration to us. For in the end, it is through education and the pursuit of knowledge that we can transcend the barriers of ignorance, overcome the shackles of oppression, and build a brighter future for all.